And with just one day until Christmas and the first day of Hanukkah, the potentially record-setting holiday travel season is in full swing across the country. Tens of millions of people have started their journeys already, many braving wintry weather in the Midwest and frigid temperatures in the Northeast to get to those destinations. AAA expecting nearly 3 million more people nationwide to travel this holiday compared to last year, with an estimated 119 million people expected to travel for Christmas and the start of Hanukkah through the new year. This would beat the previous record, which was set in 2019. We have NBC News meteorologist Michelle Grossman standing by with more on that wintry forecast that could affect the travel times. But we begin with NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra, who joins us now from East Point, Georgia, south of Atlanta, with more on this travel rush. Good morning, Marissa. So AAA predicting more than 3.7 million Georgians will travel over the holidays. How's it looking there right now? Are there any significant delays?
Actually, the good news is, Stephen, this is actually one of the least congested travel days of the holiday season. Today and tomorrow are actually the best days to drive, but also it's Christmas Eve and tomorrow is Christmas Day. So probably there's a reason for that. People really don't want to be driving, hopefully have already arrived. But of course, you can see people, there's a little bit of traffic around me. But I would say what we really have observed for the most part, we have seen a bit of a bumpy ride, if you will, when it comes to traveling by train in the Northeast. We know Amtrak had a lot of cancellations and delays because of a combination of signal issues. There were crew constraints, down power lines, and that caused significant problems, especially in the Northeast corridor, Boston to D.C. And then wintry weather this weekend. We saw a lot of issues with air travel. We know that from Friday to Sunday, that caused over 900 cancellations and over 27,000 delays. And in terms of on the road, we're looking at the entire holiday travel season is expected to break numbers when it comes to taking to the roads, as we mentioned today, and tomorrow maybe not so much. We know that overall, though, throughout the Christmas holiday season, Atlanta Metro expecting 38% more congestion than normal. So the good news is, as we mentioned today, tomorrow, pretty minimal in terms of traffic, really not much to report there, but prepare for that to creep back up again starting on Thursday, Stephen.
Yeah, and on that point, Marissa, the holidays, they've really just barely started, but already looking ahead, how should travelers prepare for those journeys when they have to make it back home, especially when we're talking about this winter weather on the way?
Yeah, I think it's always good to have a plan. So if you are traveling in a cold climate, always good to have a backup, have blankets prepared, extra gas if you can, always have a plan in place, especially if you're in a very cold climate. AAA does have traffic patterns, by the way, listed on their website to kind of give you an indication of when they do expect those congested areas to be at their worst, the peak travel times, if you will, and of course the least congested. So as we mentioned today and tomorrow, if you haven't gotten to where you need to go yet, you're in luck because the roads are going to probably be the best they're going to be all week. Stephen?
Yeah, just wait till tomorrow morning, then head out. Marissa Parra, thanks so much. Okay, let's turn now to Michelle Grossman for more on this wintry weather that could shake up our travel. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Great to see you. And yeah, we're going to see some problems when it comes to the weather. So good news that Marissa said numbers will be a little bit lighter because I think the airports will be affected, especially in the west and parts of the Northeast. Let's start with radar because that's going to show the overall picture of what's happening this morning and what we expect for the rest of today. Notice some rain in the west where you have really an active system after system moving onshore, bringing heavy rain where you see those brighter colors, also some blue. So we're seeing some snow falling in the west as well. Notice the middle of the country. Yesterday, we were quiet for the most part. We're seeing some heavy rain in parts of the south central states, and that will be the case as we go throughout today on Christmas Eve. We're going to see showers, some storms, and that could create some heavy downpours there. Some rain falling in the Carolinas, and notice New England and the Northeast. We have a quick moving system that's going to create some problems this morning. Could see even icy glaze in some spots in the Northeast. So that's what's happening right now. As we go throughout the rest of today, that's going to stick with us, especially in the west. Heavy rain, some snow. especially in the mountaintops. Showers and storms throughout the south central states, and we're looking at that slick AM travel. Looks like the snow will hold on a little bit longer in portions of New England, and we could see accumulating snow, especially in the state of Maine. So where are we expecting some problems? Well, the west, the south, the northeast at the airports. Seattle, likely delays, as well as San Francisco, possible delays in LA, also in Dallas, Boston, New York City. And we never want to hear that. So we're going to watch that as we go throughout the day and watch the numbers with the airlines. Now, as far as the roadways go, we're good for the most part in the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, most of the southeast and the southwest. But it's the west, the south, and the northeast where we're watching the roadways, especially I-90 in the northeast, I-90 in the west, I-5 in the west as well, and also I-44 and I-30 in the south central states. Now, as we look towards tomorrow, we're looking at drying out in the northeast, also New England. It's going to be clear. It's going to be crisp with temperatures right around the freezing mark in New York City. So you certainly need to bundle up if you're headed out on Christmas Day. But we're going to see those rain showers sticking around in parts of the south central states along the Gulf Coast and kind of creeping up to the Ohio Valley as well. Staying wet in the west, we're going to see another system moving in, and that's going to bring more lower elevation rain and some higher elevation snow. So 20 million people impacted by winter weather advisories, also winter storm warnings in the northeast, also New England. So Bangor, Burlington, Philadelphia, D.C., Elkins could see, we're seeing that snow falling in spots this morning. The highest amounts will be in portions of New England. We mentioned this is a quick moving storm. It doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with, so we're not going to see a whole lot of accumulation, but we are looking at some pinks and purples. That's indicating where we could see the highest amounts of snow in parts of Maine. Certainly seeing some pink there. Then we're worried about some showers and some thunderstorms in the south central states because we're looking at winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour with any of these storms. Could see some hail. The tornado risk is low, but it's not zero. So Tyler to Austin, Houston, Port Arthur could see some showers and some storms. And that's going to drop some heavy rain in spots. This is a widespread area where we could see some heavy rain with any of those downpours, with any of those stronger storms. Little Rock, Dallas, Lufkin, Houston, watch out for some showers and storms and some heavy rain today. Let's talk about the west because it's been unsettled for days, and really it feels like it's been unsettled for weeks, and it's going to continue to be. We have that atmospheric river moving on shore still, so heavy rain in the lower elevations, some higher mountain snow. Difficult travel, certainly throughout the Sierra Mountains. It's going to be windy as well. That's today. Then tomorrow we'll see that light snow spreading into the Central Rockies. Then we'll see another system moving on shore that's going to take aim at the northwest. This is on Christmas Day, and then still we're going to be wet on Friday. So rainfall forecast, we're watching from Washington to Oregon to California, Chico, Portland, Eugene, Fort Bragg, Santa Rosa, looking at the chance for some heavy rain. Again, when you see those darker colors and you look at that grid there at the top, the legend, that's indicating the chance for some higher amounts of rain. And we could see up to 4 inches of rain in some spots, if not a little bit higher in some of the heavier downpours. Snowfall forecasts, as expected, in the highest mountaintops. So Sierra Mountains, the Rockies could see some higher elevations. So we could see over 2 feet of snow in some spots where you see the pinks and purples on this map. But the good news is we are warming up finally in some places, not so much today in the Northeast. So there's a wide area of the country, 2/3 of the country, where we're looking at holiday warmth. So temperatures, Stephen in Phoenix, 77 today, 77 in San Antonio, and near 70 degrees in New Orleans. In the Northeast, we're going to catch up to those warm numbers, but not today. Back to you.
A wide variety of weather coming up for that Christmas Day and first day of Hanukkah. Michelle Grossman, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, to Capitol Hill now, which is still reeling from that stunning congressional ethics report released Monday. It found that former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz allegedly violated state laws regarding prostitution and statutory rape. The House Ethics Committee's final report found that Gaetz paid tens of thousands of dollars for sex, including in Florida, where that's illegal. It also alleges that Gaetz had sex with an underage girl and took illicit drugs. Gaetz denies any wrongdoing. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest.
This report was years in the making, and some members of the committee did not want it to see the light of day. But after a bipartisan vote, the public can now read what this investigation concluded.
A bombshell report on Capitol Hill. The House Ethics Committee revealing the results of their investigation into former Congressman Matt Gaetz, determining there is substantial evidence that Gaetz violated House rules related to prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, impermissible gifts, special favors or privileges, and obstruction of Congress. Democrat Glenn Ivey, a member of the committee, voted to release the report.
We're releasing it all, and the public can draw its own conclusions.
Specifically, the committee pointed to a 2017 encounter Gaetz had with a woman who testified she had just finished her junior year in high school and was only 17 when she and Gaetz had sex twice at a party. Gaetz has repeatedly denied having sex with anyone underage, and the woman said she did not tell Gaetz that she was 17. The committee also detailed $90,000 in payments to 12 different women that investigators concluded was used to pay for sex and illicit drugs. While women testified the encounters were consensual, one witness testified that, quote, "When I look back on certain moments, I feel violated." Gaetz has admitted to womanizing and drinking and smoking during his younger years, but says his conduct was embarrassing, but not criminal. But despite Gaetz's defense, the committee believes there could be enough evidence that Gaetz violated state laws.
I would think that they would give strong consideration to investigating the allegations.
He also points to a lengthy investigation by the Department of Justice that was closed without prosecutors bringing charges. Despite these accusations, Gaetz's political future remains open, and he's not backed down from the idea of running for higher office.
Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate.
Gaetz was no longer a member of Congress and was out of the running for Attorney General. The committee's chairman argued it would set a bad precedent to release the report. But a bipartisan majority of committee members believe the report's release was in the public's interest.
And Gaetz made a last-ditch effort to try and prevent the report from coming out, filing a motion for a temporary restraining order. But by the time the judge had a chance to review the request, the report had already been released.
Brian Nobles, thank you. Well, the decision by President Biden to commute the death sentences of more than 36 federal death row inmates is sparking a lot of intense reactions. NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt has more on how some of those prisoners and advocates are responding to this controversial choice by the president in his final days in office.
Praise and anger as President Biden commuted the death sentences of 37 of the 40 men on federal death row to life without parole. Saying in a statement, "Make no mistake, I condemn these murderers, grieve for the victims of their despicable acts, but guided by my conscience and my experience as a public defender, I am more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level." He declined to commute the sentences of 3 men, the mass shooter at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, where 11 people died, the killer of 9 people at the Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015, and the Boston Marathon bomber.
Can you reflect on the historic nature of this commutation decision by the president?
It's unprecedented. We've never had a U.S. president commute this many people who were awaiting execution.
Brian Stevenson is the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative and a leading death penalty opponent.
The question is not whether people deserve to die for the crimes they've committed. The question is whether we deserve to kill. If we have a flawed, biased, unreliable system, we cannot impose this perfect punishment with an imperfect system.
Coming ahead of President-elect Trump's plan to resume federal executions halted under the Biden administration. Trump's transition team saying these are among the worst killers in the world, calling it an abhorrent decision by Joe Biden and a slap in the face to the victims, their families, and their loved ones. Among those whose sentence was commuted, Kabani Savage, a drug dealer involved in organized crime, convicted of murdering 12 people, 4 of them children, during a firebombing incident at a house of a federal witness. Steve Mellon is a former assistant U.S. attorney who helped prosecute Savage.
We are sacrificing the safety and security and concerns of the American public, as well as the family members of those that were adversely affected directly by this, while the president is giving a Christmas present to these 37 out of 40 death row inmates.
Also learning his sentence is being commuted, Billy Allen, sentenced to death at 19 for the murder of an armed security guard in Missouri. He has always maintained his innocence. We spoke to Allen by telephone from prison.
Honestly, it shocked me. You know, and I'm like, okay, let me make sure I'm reading this right. When it hit, I was excited. And the people I thought about the most was my family, the relief it would give them.
Death penalty opponents hoping some blue state governors may follow the president's suit and spare the lives of prisoners on their death rows.
Lester Holt reporting there. Earlier this month, President Biden commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 nonviolent offenders and pardoned an additional 39 people. Well, the man charged in connection with the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson has pleaded not guilty to state charges here in New York. Luigi Mangione was arraigned yesterday on murder and terrorism charges. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the latest.
Luigi Mangione entered New York State Court for the first time.
Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
The 26-year-old faces 11 charges in the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, including first-degree murder in the furtherance of terrorism. Mangione already pleaded not guilty to 4 federal criminal charges. Outside, dozens of protesters voiced anger with the health insurance industry.
The healthcare system is corrupt, and we need to fix it.
While in court, Mangione's defense attorney took issue with what she called an utterly political perp walk last week.
They're literally treating him like he is like some sort of political fodder.
Attorney Karen Agnifilo taking aim at New York City Mayor Eric Adams over these comments.
I want to look him in the eye and stated that you carried out this terrorist act in my city.
Agnifilo accusing the mayor of possibly tainting the jury pool.
Those are the people that elected him, that he is talking to and calling this man a terrorist.
A spokesperson for the mayor says Adams' priority is public safety, and his goal was to send a message that violence and vitriol have no place in our city. Now prosecutors will have to prove the case.
How unique are terrorism charges in a case like this?
Terrorism charges themselves are unique. And then given the circumstances of this case, it's very unique.
And potentially more of a challenge.
Not only does the prosecutor have to prove that this was an intentional crime, but they also have to show that there was an intent to cause terror.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.